Hey everyone, this is Dr. Pickens, and I'm here recording a screencast on introductions and conclusions for those of you that are at this point in your essay. And first of all, I want to say that it's really awesome that you guys are at this point in your essay and that you can work on this because introductions and conclusions are actually a really important part of your essay. And when it comes to things like the ECA, you can still do okay without an introduction and conclusion, but you're going to do significantly better with it. And then when you get to more advanced writing, like in advanced placement or in college, the introduction and conclusion are going to be really important to have those skills. So let's first of all talk about the parts that go into an introduction and conclusion. And then I'm going to kind of give some examples of what you could include and then model for you a couple different ways how you do an introduction and conclusion. First of all, introductions and conclusions are actually, the parts in them are very similar. And so we're kind of repeating those parts. And the other thing about introductions and conclusions that you should know is that their main point is to get your attention and also kind of create some organization to what you're saying. It really helps to give your reader a roadmap. This is where I'm going with my essay. And then at the end, kind of review your roadmap to kind of make it clear this is where my argument went and this is why I was giving that argument. And it just makes it easier for your reader to follow what you're trying to say. So first of all, the parts in an introduction, you're going to begin with an attention grabber. Always begin with the attention grabber because you want to grab their attention first. And then you're going to use your thesis, and you're going to use TPRQ for that and have your thesis statement. And then the next part is you're going to preview your main points. And those are your kind of your main claims that you're making in your essay. And again, that kind of goes back to that roadmap idea. This is where I'm going with my argument. This is how I'm supporting my thesis that I just gave. Then when you get to your conclusion, you're going to restate your thesis. And that does not mean putting it in the exact same words. And I'll show you what that means then. Then you're going to review your main points or your main claims. And then you're going to offer a call to action. And that basically means what is your audience going to do then with your argument, or what would you like them to do with your argument? And we'll give some examples of that then. Okay, so first of all, I have this thing called an attention grabber. And an attention grabber does not mean that you're kind of restating the question of the essay. I have so many students do that. It does not really grab my attention if you say, what do you think of virtual snow days? Okay, that's just repeating the question. That's not grabbing my attention. Okay, so I have a couple ideas of what you can use for an attention grabber. And by the time we get into advanced placement, we'll be adding on to these options as far as attention grabbers, because there's a lot of ways you can do this, but I'm going to give you two of the more basic ones to begin with. The first idea that you can use for an attention grabber, and we're right here in your handout, one of them is you can ask a thought-provoking question or series of questions. And this only works if it's actually a thought-provoking question. Again, not mimicking the prompt. But something that is a controversy within your topic, or something that kind of requires a little more in-depth thought. But also the other thing I've seen students do with this is they sometimes create a question that has a lot to do with their topic, but if it's the first thing you read in their essay, it seems like that question just comes out of nowhere. So make sure you keep in mind that your audience doesn't necessarily have a lot of background knowledge on your topic yet. The other thing you can do is start with a personal story or another story that has something to do with your topic that uses a lot of imagery and details, and you kind of use all these details to really grab your audience's attention. Okay, so let's look at an example of this, and this is an introduction I wrote about banning books and whether we should ban books. Okay, so my attention grabber here, and we're on the right here. Who should ultimately decide what is best for individuals? Do we believe in the power of the individual or the power of the state? Notice my attention grabber here is a really in-depth question that deals with questions of power, and I think that's something that interests people. But it doesn't just ask, do you think books should be banned? Because that doesn't really get our attention. So that's my attention grabber. Then I'm going to have my thesis statement. Although limits should be placed on what children can access in a library, books should never be banned because it limits individual freedom. And so that's my thesis statement. And then I'm going to preview my main point, okay? Banning books can be negative for two main reasons. It makes critical thinking more challenging, and it can reduce personal liberty, okay? And I have a little side note there to notice how I used a colon for previewing the main points. I think this could be really effective, okay? You could talk about how virtual snow days are positive for two main reasons. Remember, with our colon, we have an independent clause there that can stand alone, but then further information afterwards are two main reasons. So I think a colon can be really effective there, so I'm just including that as a freebie. Okay, when we get to our conclusion, we're going to begin by restating our thesis, and we're going to use a transition there in conclusion, to conclude, to end with. And those are good words to signal to our audience. We're reaching the end here. And we're going to restate our thesis. I'm not going to use TPRQ here. I'm just going to really say what my main position has been in my essay so far. Then I'm going to review my main points. And then I'm going to have some sort of call to action to my audience. What should they do in response to my argument? So, to conclude, and I'm reading from here on the left, to conclude, banning books can ultimately be harmful to society. Okay, that's my main thesis. And notice it's similar here that, books should never be banned. I'm just saying that in a different way. Ultimately, limiting what people can read also limits critical thinking and the freedoms governments are supposed to protect. Again, I'm reviewing my main points, but putting them in slightly different words, okay? I'm talking about critical thinking, again, and reducing personal liberty, but just saying that in a different way. So that reviews my main points. Therefore, students and teachers have a real need to protest any limits that are placed on the availability of books. Keep free speech alive by protecting it, okay? And again, I'm having a little sentence variation there by adding an exclamation point, and I am telling my audience what they should do in response to my argument. Lastly, on this little handout I have here, it's just to avoid at all costs, don't do this in your introduction and conclusion. And I think I've already mentioned this, do not repeat the prompt question. Okay, and also do not just restate your main points of your thesis at the end. You need to word them differently. And I put here that the goal is to get across the same idea, not the same words. And I think that's helpful to remember and keep in mind. So anyways, I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys use introductions and conclusions in your writing. I think it can really make a powerful statement at the beginning and end to kind of reorganize what you're saying and make it clear for your audience. Thanks, guys.